because hello, everyone. We are just gathering here for our election wrap up. It is so good to see friendly faces and names in these rectangles. You know, I love it. It's so good to see you. Ruth Lawson, I have not seen you in a hot minute. It is so good to see you. Hello, everybody. Just give us a couple minutes here, maybe two, as we gather. If you're without a wine glass and you'd like one, there will be a toast. So you're welcome to grab your favorite beverage. I have water for our toast, but you may have something more interesting close at hand. That'll be in a few minutes. Welcome everyone this evening. Give us just another minute to gather. I see Barbara laughing as she reads the chat, which says, "Hey, Mom," from Meredith Lawson Rowe to Ruth Lawson, which is a fun chat to start with today. All right, without further ado, we'll give people will come in as they're able. But thank you so much for joining us this evening with the Matriots to do our year-end wrap-up event. We are here to talk about what an incredible year this has been for Matriots, for women, for Ohio, and how we are helping move the needle forward. We couldn't do it without all of you who are on the phone today. And we're going to just give an election debrief. We're going to toast from our previous year. We're going to provide some thank yous. We're going to provide some election analysis. And we also have the incredible gift of some of our candidates who are making time this evening to talk to you about their race and about how they have personally, individually, and collectively changed what Ohio looks like. So I'm incredibly excited tonight, but maybe you know that I'm generally excited. I'm Emily Shriver, the CEO of the Matriots. I have the honor of leading the work that happens here at the Matriots alongside our board and my incredible teammates who are here as well. We have Fizz White, who runs our endorsement process, and you'll hear from them in a little bit. We also have on the phone today with you all a significant portion of our team, Maddie Robinson, who is our Matriots Fellow, Heather Blackman DeForno, who runs our business processes, Kaylee McKee, who is our intern here, and our board member who runs endorsements and champions the cause, Barbara Fillion, who you'll hear from in just a minute. I want to do a couple of Zoom hygiene moments because, you know, it's 2023 and we've been doing this for 3 years and we still have some hiccups every now and again. You're all muted as you enter. If you could keep yourself on mute, that way it lessens the background noise for us. The chat is open and already active with a lot of fun. I hope that you will use your reaction buttons. If you hear something you like, give it a shout out, give it a clap. That's always a lot of fun. I learned today if I hold my thumb high enough for long enough, it actually ends up turning into a thumbs up. So you can also do that. Just really, really happy to see you all here. We are recording this session. It will be available for you to review after the fact. And so it may be asking you as you come into the Zoom room to click to approve the recording that is in process. Thank you so much. And I am excited to introduce Barbara Fillion. Barbara is down in Southwest Ohio. So I'm in Columbus, which is why I say down. Barbara is in Southwest Ohio. She's a member of our Matriots board of directors and leads the endorsement committee for the organization. And I wanted to turn it over to you, Barbara, for a couple of words today.
Thanks, Emily. All right, so I'm going to toast 3 distinct groups of women and 1 man. All of our candidates for stepping up to run. God knows, better you than me. Thank you so much for standing up for our values for standing up for the rights of women, for working to create an Ohio where we can all thrive and prosper. We're grateful for all of you, and we know you'll continue to lift up your communities in a variety of ways. Many thanks to our endorsement committee. I see a lot of people I spent a lot of time on Zoom with on this call. If I started naming names, I would for sure forget someone. So Fizz is putting up the list of people who worked on endorsement and or research. There was a lot of work done. We endorsed 154 candidates between the primary and the general election. So no way we could have done this without the dedication of all of our endorsement and research volunteers and staff. And finally, a thanks to our dedicated board members whose names were not on that list, but who spent at least long enough to vote yes on every one of you and all 154 candidates. Lanshree Billingsley, Jill Brown Dean, Eric Kearney, whose wife was elected. He recused himself, I'm just going to say. Sue Badaji, who is our fearless treasurer and finance committee chair. She and I had some conversations. And Valerie Lemmy, our board chair. And finally, this is not in my script, but to Fizz, without whom none of this would have happened. So raise a glass, ladies. Thank you so much. And I am going to turn this back to Emily and Fizz and mute myself.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for everything you have done this year as well. As Emily makes sure we say, and I like to say, Barbara is my partner in not crime, but just absolutely grateful to have you with me on this journey, Barbara. So thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. My name is Fizz White, and I am the manager of endorsements and candidate support for the Matriots. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today, and I'm going to give an election recap of the 2003 general election. And you can go to the next slide for me, Emily. Thank you. So in order to support our candidates across the state, we need folks to apply. This is the first step in our endorsement process, and it takes a ton of outreach to get the word out there. We reach out to all 88 counties across the state. We send mailers and letters to the county party chairs across the state. We reach out to many of the other incredible organizations doing work to support women across the state. We post on social media, and we rely so much on all of you to get the word out to all of your networks. We have an extensive application that we do, and we also do a deep internet dive on each one of our candidates. And this can be even more challenging and time consuming during a local election year. Our endorsement committee members then conduct at least 30-minute interviews with each candidate. Our regional hives then get together. They have in-depth conversation regarding each candidate and make recommendations regarding endorsement, but also the financial support that we offer to each one of our candidates that we endorse. Our board then takes all the information that we give them, they review it, they make final decisions regarding that endorsement and the financial contribution, and then we are able to announce and start offering that support to our candidates. So we have a rolling endorsement process, and then we endorse in waves. And this allows us to give early money to candidates who apply when possible, rather than sort of waiting until the end of our entire endorsement process. We really do our best to try to give out those early dollars because we know how impactful it can be. And then we also endorse in competitive primary races as well. This year, we ended up extending our endorsement process as we realized filing deadlines were later, and that issue one took up so much of our focus that we really noticed that we needed to reopen our application process, and we saw a need and an opportunity to support and endorse even more candidates throughout the state. So this is a local election year, and local elections are just incredibly important to our communities. for some of our candidates, the difference between them and their opponents can be just tens of votes. There are races where they fall within just 0.5% of their opponents, triggering automatic recounts. Some of our candidates, excuse me, are in this too close to call recount phase right now, which is pretty amazing to see how local elections play out. For most of our lives, our education around government and politics focuses so much on the federal level, which is important, but there's so much room to grow and to make a difference when we all get involved on a state and local level. Local races can often fly under the radar, but have such a significant impact on the daily outcomes in our lives and our communities. Often people don't even necessarily realize which positions as we the people get to elect, such as city attorneys and township trustees, those things that we may not think about on a day-to-day basis, but have really huge impact on our lives. So thinking about our success in this 2023 general election, our candidates had a ton of success. It was absolutely incredible to watch. We had 151 endorsed candidates in the general election, and we had an overall win rate of 75%. That's 113 of our candidates who were successful this time out. Of those 113 candidates, 47 of them were candidates that we have endorsed before, and 87% of those folks won. We also had 62 first-time candidates, which is just an amazing feat in and of itself to step up to run for the first time. We were able to give out almost $85,000 to our candidates for the general election. Over 1.7 million votes were cast for our candidates. And we also endorsed and provided funding in the primary election this year. 4 out of our 5 candidates won in their primary election, and those folks are included in our general election numbers. Incumbents are just taking a look at sort of the breakdown of how we broke down some of our numbers here. Incumbents are candidates that are looking to retain their seats, whether they were appointed or elected previously. And then challengers are candidates who are running against an incumbent. And then we have open seats as well, which there isn't an incumbent running for that seat. So you'll see the graph showing in this information showing the success of our breakdown of those regions and of those categories. So when you look at the percentages for our the win rates for these different categories, they're not atypical. We invest in some really awesome candidates over time, so it's pretty easy to see why they continue to get elected over and over again, those incumbents. And then name recognition and tenure play a huge part in politics and getting elected. So it's really challenging to beat an incumbent. So those challenger win rates can often be a bit lower. And then open seats are full of new folks who are new to running for that seat or race. And you'll kind of see that reflected in the numbers that are shown up on the screen here. So here you'll see a breakdown of our candidates by the type of race that they were running for. And we're particularly really proud of that 85% win rate for school board races, those Board of Education races, and we'll get into that a bit later. Hearing a bit more about those school board races, as well as some of our endorsed school board candidates. So the next thing that I really want to do with you all, this is probably my favorite part of the election wrap up, is this storytelling piece and getting to talk about some of the incredible stories and candidates that we had the pleasure and honor to endorse this year. And this is just going to be a couple of the amazing stories. So there are many. You'll see across the screen as I speak about these things, all of our candidates, images of all of our endorsed candidates, both the successful and successful. And so we just want to a moment for all of those folks as you get to look at their faces. And so if you notice their faces and you see them out and about, please do say congratulations and thank them for running. So many of our candidates continue to persevere over and over again, run multiple times. And the state level is absolutely a hard place to win, a hard place to win at. And so though sometimes candidates may not be successful on that state level, they know that they are the right person to help represent the community, to help push their community forward. And so they step up to the plate and they decide to run again the next year, which is crazy to me, to run for a local office, which I think is just absolutely incredible. And so even being unsuccessful in that year before, they're not deterred, and they know that they need to step up for the communities. And so we had candidates like Patricia Getz out of Northeast Ohio for Hudson City Council Ward 1, Troy Greenfield out of Northeast Ohio for Fairview Park City Council, Tracy Tackett out of Southwest Ohio for Springfield County Commission, Louise Valentine in Central Ohio for Westerville Board of Education. These folks were not deterred. They ran again, and this year they won on a local level and are going to impact their community and in such a amazing way. All candidates who we got to endorse before and came back for our endorsement, and we get to help support their journeys again. So that is just something that I really take pride in, and think that it's an incredible thing for our organization and for these candidates. We also had some really incredible firsts this year across the state, and I just want to highlight a couple of them. So Brittany Kolowaski out of Weston, Ohio, she will be the first LGBTQ person to serve on Weston City Council, which is incredible. Priya Tamala Morrison will be the first woman of color, the first woman and first person of color, excuse me, to serve as Gahanna City Attorney, and we will get the wonderful pleasure to hear from her later this evening. Monica Wilson was appointed earlier this year in February, becoming the first Black person to serve on Parma City Council in Parma, Ohio, and then ran later this year to retain her seat on Parma City Council in the general election, and we were able to support her. So those are just some incredible firsts. They're stepping up and really breaking barriers within their communities, and we want to make sure we highlight those as well. I mentioned earlier school board races. School board races were something else, to say the least. With that 85% win rate I mentioned earlier, school board races were especially contentious and important this year. There were groups like Moms for Liberty and many others like it who absolutely contradict Matriots values, and they were putting a lot of support and dollars behind candidates who were actively working against the things that we all on this call believe in. And so all across the country, we saw school board races become more hostile, more partisan than ever before, and that was no exception here in Ohio. And because of this, we saw a huge need to invest more dollars in school board races than we ever have before. And we did that. We reinvested in school board races. We made sure our ear were on the ground. We had candidates reaching out to us with stories and letting us know that they needed extra support. And so we are really proud of that. We were able to reinvest in those races and help propel folks forward. And there was a ton of success across school board races across the state. So we are just absolutely so proud of that. Just admiring these lovely faces coming across our screen. I wanted to make sure that we take a moment to look at all of those. So the next thing I want to touch on is the ongoing support that we give to our candidates once they are endorsed. We do a variety of things for our candidates. One of those things is adding them to our Matriots website. Every one of our endorsed candidates has a personal web page with a bio and a profile picture that lets you know a little bit more about them, lets you know where to find more information about their campaign, and is a really becomes a place where folks can go to gather and start their research on candidates as they get ready to vote. We also provide Matriots endorsed graphics for each one of our endorsed candidates so that they can share this graphic with their networks across social media, across email, and have something to say, hey, I'm a Matriots endorsed candidate. We do our digital promotion. We have slate cards that we make, graphics that we make, and we post those across social media. We send them out via email to our members and announce our endorsed candidates, make sure that everyone knows who is running and who we have put our support behind this year. We also do a printed slate card that we mail out, and you'll see that on the screen there, that we mail out to all of our members across the state. And on the back of it, within that slate card, there is, there's information on our candidates, what they're running for, stats about our candidates and our endorsed candidate landscape for the year. And so it's something that we make sure that all of our members see. We also reach out to our members and try to get them to volunteer for our candidates and on those campaigns, because we know that stomping the pavement and knocking on doors is one of the biggest parts of campaigns and elections. And so we try to get folks out on behalf of our candidates. And then we do get out the vote communications as well, making sure that folks know when voting deadlines are, and knowing how to vote, and having voter checklists, and making sure that you all the things you need to know before you show up to the polls, so that when you get there, you're ready to vote, and you're able to exercise your voice. The next thing I want to do is kick it over to Emily. She is going to give us a little bit of an overview of the fight for reproductive health that we had this year.
Thanks, Fizz. I am still just so living back in the images of the women who we have endorsed, and in the incredible work that our endorsement committee and you have done over the course of the year to support our women candidates. So I am just really fired up about the incredible success, both our candidates who won and our candidates for whom this was not the year. I think this is just a space that we're going to be really glowing in for a while. And when I think about spaces to glow in, I also think about how the Matriots participated in the space of reproductive rights and reproductive freedom for women across the state of Ohio. The Matriots has, as one of our core tenets for endorsement of our candidates, the dominion over our own bodies that women deserve and must have in order to be successful and to thrive, dominion over our own bodies. And this year was a race like none other for dominion over our own bodies. And for the first time ever, our organization was able to really lean into something that wasn't necessarily candidate endorsement. It was instead this incredible support of ballot initiatives and ballot measures. And so we first stepped in to the August 8th election on the vote no side. We joined the coalitions. There were two coalitions that had formed around getting out a no vote to not change Ohio's constitution, to increase the percentage of votes that would be required for a ballot initiative, and to also not change the percentage of signatures that were needed in order to get something onto the ballot. This was an incredible defensive move by individuals who really were anti-choice. And that ended up as an August 8th election, something I think that was unanticipated in the fight for reproductive rights, and ended up being a fight for democracy brought together bipartisan, nonpartisan, I've heard panpartisan support in order to allow the people to continue the voice at 50% plus one person of a vote. That overwhelmingly passed at 57%. And we were really proud to be able to provide support to the August 8th election vote no campaign. But that made us have to turn very quickly to a vote yes campaign. We, again, had never, besides the August 8th election, we'd never leaned into a ballot initiative. We hopped on board. We, at the Matriots, not only were part of the OURR, the Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights Coalition, garnering support for individuals who were out door knocking, phone calling, and texting. Across the state, there were over 1 million doors knocked. There were 4 million phone calls made and 8 million text messages sent. I will not say those were all from the Matriots, but we had individuals who volunteered as part of that initiative. We also, as an organization, provided $10,000 of support for the media outreach that was necessary. And we also garnered almost $500,000 in member support for the initiative. And so, it was an incredible feat, both in kind and in actual dollars, by our Matriots members. And I'm just so incredibly pleased to have been able to show up in this way. On the night of the election, one of the leaders for the election said, Ohio, tonight we're going to bed knowing that we have that we control our own bodies. We own our own bodies. That was Marcella Acevedo on election night. And I don't think there's a more powerful thing that she could have said on that night. We continue to see our Matriots previously endorsed candidates pushing for reproductive rights, women like Representative Beth Liston, who is a doctor from Central Ohio, is now moving forward with the Reproductive Care Act to ensure the implementation of our amendment. So just really pleased with the outcome, seeing almost 57% of individuals voting yes across the state of Ohio. We had almost 4 million people turn out to vote. And typically in an odd numbered election year, we see between 700,000 and 1 million people turn out to vote. So with a 48% voter turnout rate, it was an insane election, but that also benefited our women candidates, as with that 1.7 million votes for women candidates as well. So just really, really thankful for these movements for reproductive rights and for your participation in it as well. So Fiz, will you tell us what's happening next? We're living still in the glow, but not for long enough, because our eyes have already started to turn to 2024. What's happening?
Me, myself. Yes, indeed. So just thinking about all of the things coming up this next year, believe it or not, the filing deadline for our candidates is December 20th. And then there will be a primary on March 19th, which is just going to be here so much faster than any of us know. So on your screen, you can see that these are some of the potential races in which the Matriots would be able to endorse in 2024. These races include statewide Supreme Court seats in the General Assembly, and county-wide races. And then you likely know that there are also significant federal races that will be on the ballot as well in 2024. At this time, the Matriots do not endorse in federal elections. Thinking about the landscape of our legislature for 2024, right now we're in the 135th General Assembly here. This is a huge year for the General Assembly. Right now, there are 38 women currently in our legislature. That only makes up 28.8% of the General Assembly, and 17 of those women who are in the 135th General Assembly are Matriots endorsed candidates. So this year, about half of the Senate seats and all of the House seats will be up for re-election. And you can see this graphic on this slide, which sort of shows you the breakdown of Matriots endorsed candidates currently in the House and in the Senate. So that's our election wrap up for this year, and also our looking forward to 2024. Just a pause for an incredible year, and a thank you to every single person who spoke about the Matriots and got our message out there and ran and helped and volunteered, and every single person. We're so grateful to be a part of such an incredible coalition of folks really working towards a common goal here. So thank you. Next, we have an incredible panel made up of some of our endorsed candidates. It will be moderated by Meredith Lawson-Rowe. Meredith Lawson-Rowe made history when she was one of 3 Black women elected in 2019 to Reynoldsburg City Council, and she is recently elected as Reynoldsburg's council president. In her previous terms, she has helped establish an annual Juneteenth celebration. She and her colleagues passed an anti-discrimination policy for the city. She has always had a heart to serve and will absolutely continue to uplift her community. We are so lucky to have Meredith representing Matriots values in the community. Tonight, we will have 5 wonderful panelists discussing election highlights and lessons they learned throughout their campaigns. And I just want to give a bit of an intro on each one of these candidates. So we have Amanda Cleary, who ran for mayor of Ironton. Amanda Cleary has been heavily involved in advocating and creating change in the community for many years, working as a court administrator at the Lawrence County Court of Common Pleas, to becoming a small business owner in downtown Ironton. These roles led Amanda to help create a nonprofit organization called Third and Center. Her incredible run for mayor of Ironton resulted in a hotly contested runoff election just last week, and she brought critical insight to her race and absolutely led with Matriots values. Jamil Jones ran for Gahanna City Council, voting in every national election since turning 18. Jamil Jones only recently began paying attention and getting involved in local elections. After feeling that her message resonated and inspired others to take action, Jamil decided it was time for her to step up and run for Gahanna City Council and make a difference within her community. Jamil is the founder and executive director of Pint Size Protesters, a nonprofit whose mission is to raise anti-racist children and foster the next generation of social justice activists. We are so excited to now say Councilwoman-elect Jamil Jones in Gahanna. Lauren Marchaza, out of Menor Exempted Village Board of Education. Lauren Marchaza grew up in Menor and understands the challenges that her former school system faces. Lauren began her journey in education as a graduate teaching assistant at Ohio University, and today she works in higher education as the director and editor of publications at Case Western Reserve University. Lauren believes that every child has a right to education, and as a newly elected member of the Board of Education, she will turn her passion to bus driver shortages, large class sizes, and safety and security of her students in the community. Shelley McKnight ran for Anthony Wayne Board of Education. As a teacher, Shelley McKnight has spent her life encouraging students to find their passions and confidently pursue their dreams. As a member of Anthony Wayne Board of Education, she will ensure that each student has an opportunity to do that. Shelley was one of the first folks to email us when the win numbers came in, thanking the Matriots for our support. And she had an incredibly difficult race this year, but she shined through and snagged her first elected seat this year. Priya Tamala Morrison is a first-generation American who who ran for Gahanna City Attorney. I apologize. Is a first-generation American who understands the importance of having opportunities that contribute to one's success. She has closed more than 2,500 misdemeanor traffic cases in Franklin County, and then started her own solo practice where she represented domestic violence victims, including South Asian women. As Gahanna City Attorney, she will ensure that she brings the same drive that has fueled her desire to do good for her city to office while supporting women in the community. And I will now turn it over to Meredith Lawson-Rowe, who is going to start our conversation with these incredible candidates.
Good evening, Matriots. This is an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much, Fizz, for taking us through all of those intros. And let's face it, selfishly, she read those, they read those for me so that I wouldn't be under pressure of my reading fluency. But I won't waste any time. I am here at a conference room at my office because I did not want to miss this. And I'm so excited to be here. But before we get started, I must do a few housekeeping items. I have to give big shout outs to my mom, Ruth Lawson. I would not be here without her, obviously, and her support is incredible, not only for me, but for the community. She was captured on social media for her church sometime this week, and she was doing what she does, serving, whatever she was doing. And I captured it and shared it and said, I get it from my mama. So thank you, Mom. I must also give a shout out to some incredible women that I get to serve with in Reynoldsburg that I affectionately call the Women of Reynoldsburg. That's Councilwoman-elect Erin Hill. She will represent me on council. And we had a chance to be slate mates. So thank you, Councilwoman-elect. Dr. Toni Cleckley was also a slate mate of mine. She made incredible gains in a township race that is the township trustees are all men. And so she made a huge dent. So we are just ecstatic for her future. President Angela Abram, a dear friend of mine. She's president of Reynoldsburg City School Board. Always just a supportive, dear friend. And Bobby Celeste, who has just been a godmother of the Democratic Party here in Franklin County. And would be remiss if I did not share accolades. So on to this awesome panel. I'm so very excited. Thank you all so much for being here and running for office and actually standing on the values, our shared values of being Matriots. And I'd like to hear briefly from all of you what led you to run for office in a local government. I know the presidential elections are always the sexy elections for those that aren't engaged like us. So I want to hear from each of you about running for local office. And just jump right in. Unmute.
Sure. So I can jump in. For me, it was initially a no, not me. I can't be the one. But then, I thought a lot about, I've lived a life of activism, and I've always said to folks that, doing the good work is more than just protesting. It's more than just activism. We have to impact the laws and the legislation that are made. And so it was a little bit of practice what I preach, put up, shut up, and pull those petitions. And we're glad that it all worked out, and we're here today, and we're able to continue to doing the work, just in a different platform.
I'll go. I decided to run almost 2 years ago, but then I got sick, had to have surgery, so that was put off for a year. So the president of the board, the current Board of Education, asked me to run back in last November. And I said, I'd think about it. So other people asked me to run. There's currently no teacher on the board. I thought a teacher should be on the board to provide that vital perspective. I got a lot of support initially going out and gathering information. And so then last January, I said, we're doing this.
My decision to run was just solely based on my love for the community. I'd been working through my nonprofit to create change in the community and wanted to present to our citizens a candidate that led from the heart instead of a politician. And that's kind of how I ran the campaign, and just look forward to continuing. I knew that platform would allow faster, bigger change, but I think that we can still facilitate change in the role that I'm in now.
So for me, I was like Jamil, and it was nope, not me. But I did have people asking me to run, and I had been active for a couple of years at school board meetings, speaking, and I have 2 kids in the system as well. And finally it came down to who else but me. And it became clearer and clearer every day. And I got closer to yes until finally I knew it was really the only way I felt that I'd be doing as much as I possibly could to affect change in my community. So that's why I ran.
I think that leaves me. I am similar to Jamil and Lauren, which is that at first I was a little resistant to the idea of running because I was a little daunted by the whole task of being on the ballot. And I didn't think, with my name and my background, I didn't think I was electable. But I wanted to get involved in local politics. And so the more I made that known and the more I was helping out, I became more interested in stepping up to the plate, because it seemed like there was a position that there was never a real opponent running against the incumbent for almost 30 years of the same type of folks in the same office structure. So I felt like, why not me? And I decided to step up and make a change.
All right. Excellent. So what I heard most is someone asked you to run for office. What I also heard was, I'm hesitant, am I electable? If they've asked, why not me? So I first learned back in 19, women have to be asked 7 times before they say yes. So let's get that out of the way. Will you run for office? Run for office, run for office, run for office, run for office. Will you run for office? Will you run for office? So the next time will be the 8th time someone asks you, and you've already gotten the 7 questions out of the way. And I say yes, because how many races will you win if you don't go for it? So please, if you decide not to run for office, support a woman who is leaning in to the idea of running for office, because there's so many ways that we can be supportive of women. And we know when women run for seats, Fizz just showed us the data. It's there to support it, and we can enhance it and embellish it even more. So I just want to jump right into Amanda. What I heard from your introduction, you are a leader. You saw that there was a need, so you started a nonprofit and you are running it. Yes, ma'am, that is fantastic. Thank you. And that's the type of leadership that we need in terms of representing our neighbors. So, question. You had an incredibly close race. Coming down to the wire with the runoff election. Who is this your first time running for office?
Yes, this is my first
So
time
who,
running for
first of
anything.
all, you run for office and you challenge the incumbent so much that you had him scared, girl. You had a runoff.
It
So
was
you
interesting.
can,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, okay, so real quick, we know it wasn't the result that you were hoping for. So what advice do you have for candidates who may not have won their first time going out, especially when it was so close? You've already kind of given us and warmed us up about how you continue to serve and stay engaged. So can you expound upon that a little bit more about how you continue to be engaged, and will it include the political process?
I think to answer the first part of the question, for anyone looking to step into this political arena, I think the first thing that you have to do is decide what kind of race you're going to run. And I knew from the very beginning that I was going to run a positive race, and I was going to lead with my heart, and I wanted my community to just see who I was, and to know that it was possible to lead with love and to lead with just a hope for what we could be. So then it became, in my mind, the community's choice. And at the end of the day, I feel like half of our community was ready and the other half wasn't. So I think looking at it from that perspective made the loss not so hurtful. I think I didn't take it personally. It was more of we have more work to do in the community. We need to show our community that we can lead with love and that we can come together and let the togetherness and the unity be what drives us forward. So knowing that I still had a platform to show up for my community in that way is making it a lot easier to move forward. And also knowing that I stayed true to myself through this process is allowing me to get some really much needed rest at the end of the day. So
thank you so much for your candidacy. And thank you for your honesty and transparency. What I just heard, you don't often hear when someone says that they're going to step up and how they're going to lead. You hear what characteristics they have in order to be a leader. You don't actually hear an action verb that you just shared, and I have goosebumps. Leading with love. Thank you. Thank you. I think if we had more of that in government, it wouldn't be so hard and difficult. So thank you for that. That's really resonated with me. And I know it's not just me, it's throughout, because I'm seeing hearts. Lead with love. Wow. Okay, Councilwoman-elect Jamil. Full transparency, I know Jamil. We met, gosh, was it maybe 3 years ago? Because
so,
she was
yeah.
a rock star in her community, and this was long before she threw her hat in the ring.
Yeah.
So, and I actually met her through another Matriot endorsed winner, Councilwoman Marissa Bowers. And if I am thinking, if I'm on the right track, I believe she's the one that encouraged you to run for office.
Yeah, her
Okay.
and it's her and several others, but yes.
Okay, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. So we know you were already doing the work and you were
Mhm.
already community building. So thank you. thank you for doing the work and not having the title, and now you have that title. So, what would you say to someone who's thinking about running for office the first time? And what advice would you give them about the campaign trail?
Oh goodness. I would say say yes, and then figure it out later. I think part of my initial no was, like I'm not political. I don't know how to do this. I don't, I don't know the rules, and I don't have the network. But I said yes, and I figured it out as we went. And I think that I don't know, maybe that's the one thing that voters found endearing, is that I was always true to who I was, who I am in the process, and didn't try to be anything that I'm not. So I think that would be my advice is, it's campaigning is hard, like no qualms about it. Like it's hard and it's challenging, but if you can kind of make the one commitment to yourself, whatever's most important to you. For me, it was, at the end of this, I want to be proud of how I ran. I want to be proud that I stayed true to who I was, and that I also wanted to make sure that my husband, my daughter, and my wife, and my husband, my daughter, and my mom weren't like upset with me at the end, or didn't feel like that they completely had to sacrifice, that time with me. And like, obviously you did, but I'm still married. I still have a daughter that still loves me, and my mom is still here. So I feel like that's a success. And so I think the other big advice too is like, have your team, and your team is, it's your campaign staff, if you can afford it, or volunteers, or whoever that might be. But then have, what we call your kitchen cabinet. So that's your people that, when it gets real hard, you can call and cry and scream and yell. The people that you can call and say, like, look, I need to just do anything but campaign right now. Can you be here with me? Like, those are the folks that I think were even more important than, the social media manager and all of those things. Is the support system to get the person through. That team can get the candidate through, but that cabinet to get Jamil through all of it was so important.
Yes, 100%. I totally agree. What I heard was say yes and figure it out. And I think the more and more that I talk to other women in this space, and not only this space, but just across the board, professionally, educationally, um, we are we're CEOs of our houses. We're CEOs of our families. We know how to get stuff done. We figured it out, but we're so prepared that we want to have all of our T's crossed and all of our I's dotted before we 100% lean in with our full self. So what I heard Councilwoman elect was, you didn't have it figured all out, but you said yes and said, we'll figure it out. And you had that support system.
Yeah.
And I think that is so very important, not only for first time candidates, but for candidates across the board. And those of us in service, not only in the political space, but in other service areas. Board member Lauren, wow, Case Western, I hear. So can I give you a call and get the insider track on the election polls that come out in the primary and general season upcoming? Because we're going to be hot on polls, my friend. We'll be hot on polls.
I'll do my best.
Okay, so we know that school boards have been battlegrounds. Um, like we've never seen before, and so politically charged, and sometimes just very full attention. And it seems like things are becoming increasingly partisan. How do you keep the focus on the students and their needs with so many distractions surrounding school boards? How do you bring communities together on behalf of children and families despite our tensions politically?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I want to echo everything Amanda and Jamil said too. I completely agree. This was a hard race. There were 2 seats open and 5 candidates running. One of them was daughter of a senator here in Ohio, Senator Serino's daughter that I ran against. And um, it, our school board election became rife with drama and culture war issues. And so right away, I knew that my campaign needed to speak to the majority of folks who I knew, being a parent in the district, being somebody who grew up here. I just knew, I trusted my instincts to know that culture wars are not what people want in their schools. I knew that, a lot of other parents understood that, and that became my platform. I'm honestly a very progressive person. I probably cheered the loudest on election night when issue 1 was called, that we were all, and so many of us in a room together. I know Jamie Schatzman, who's on the call, was there too. And man, that was honestly the highlight of the night. Winning was great too, but man, but honestly, in a race where everyone wanted to talk about book banning and bathrooms, which were the top 2 issues that I had to address on a daily basis, it was about the kids. So what I did was I really zapped all of the, culture wars out of the conversation and turned it back to our kids and to what public education is supposed to be and do for our community. So I got boring, honestly. I started talking about our bus driver shortage, as Fizz, I think, mentioned. I started talking about things like how our class sizes are too large, and I knew about these issues because I'm a parent and I can speak to them. I can speak to why, we have buses coming half-hour late while our kids are sitting out there waiting and waiting, while they're getting home 45 minutes late. So just kind of speaking to those everyday issues that parents face. And also making those connections with teachers. That was really, really important. Connecting with our teachers union and really understanding what teachers are feeling and needing in our district. That was really important too. So honestly, like, I went into the campaign thinking I want to make our school board meetings boring again. I really want to focus on the real issues that are at the top of everyone's list. And less so, because we know in our hearts that the people who are out there screaming at board meetings are the vocal minority. So using my instincts, sticking to a strategy for sure, because a lot of well-intentioned folks are going to give you advice along the way, and it has to be your decision to run your campaign to say, you know what, no, I'm going to stick to my strategy all the way through. And I do think that was hard, but it ended up benefiting me in the end.
You had dropped so many nuggets. What I heard what I heard, and I will share in my words, keep the main thing the main thing. You kept your message on public education, and you were not distracted by book bans or dress codes or the many distractions that our kids and our school districts are facing on a daily basis. So thank you. And I often say, to your point, make the meetings boring again. Well, everything is not sexy and everything will not pull out the crazies, but we must have boring discussions because that's how we get the work done. So thank you for that. Yeah, public education, class size, bus driver shortage. Those are things that we care about in schools. Those that was one of the reasons why my family and I moved to Reynoldsburg, was because of the schools. And I say the schools are the anchor of our communities, and our cities, towns, communities cannot thrive unless our schools are thriving. So thank you so much for sharing. Um, and I'd like to move on to board member Shelley, please. Classroom experience and honest communication is what I heard in your bio. What I'm also hearing projected is those closest to the challenges are closest to the solutions. So I thank you. Um, we just shared about school board races being extremely contentious this year. And we know that the campaign trail can be long and lonely. We know about support systems. So, what is the most challenging thing about running for office this year? And how did you stay grounded in your values with so much negativity going on in the district?
That's also a good question. As a teacher, and I have been a teacher for 35 years, middle school, junior high, high school, college, even a juvenile prison, separate facility for behavior. I had a lot of perspectives to bring forth. A lot of teachers approached me. They thanked me for running because they said, finally, we're going to get somebody on the board who can really understand how it is on this side of the desk. And I said, well, that's true. When I started running in January, we're talking a very mild, just like you said, Lauren, calm, boring board meetings, 25, 30 people. But then when this bathroom thing, the transgenders molesting kids in the bathroom, which wasn't even a problem in the school, but that vocal minority made it so, 300 and 350 people wanted now to attend the board meetings, and we had to move to the high school gymnasium. This is just after I got my petition filed and I'm ready to go. This was like, this is not what I expected. I'm looking to build on Anthony Wayne excellence, keep the arts, keep the music, keep the band, keep these kids engaged. That was my thing. Get them engaged. The teachers at Anthony Wayne are so good. I wanted to maintain that. Well, then this bathroom thing starts. These are anti-maskers, anti-vaccine people, book banners, wanting religion in the classroom. This is what I was facing. All of a sudden, instead of just me and a couple others who were up for re-election, we had 9 people running for 3 open seats, 3 people running for 1 unexpired seat. 3 of them, I called them the 3 Stooges, they lumped together. These were the anti-maskers, anti-vaccine people. The eye of Sauron was laser focused on me. I felt like Mordor coming because they attacked me mercilessly. Lies, out of context. This was my biggest challenge. Everybody told me that this is a small vocal minority that's on this social media that was blasting me. Turns out that that was true, but you know, when you're the kind of person like I am that gets a 98% on a test, I worried about that 2% that I missed. And I'm thinking, why are these people saying this about me? Why are they doing this? They don't even know me. So this was my biggest challenge, because I'm a fighter, not getting involved in that confrontation, having to remain, because my background is in rhetoric, persuasion, argument. That's my PhD work. You don't go to their level. You don't. As Michelle Obama always said, when they go low, you go higher. You keep that ground. You keep your values. You keep your steadiness. My platform was every student, the whole student, teachers backing them, supporting teachers. And that's what I ran on. And that's what I kept consistent. But boy, oh boy, I was an unfit mother. I was an unfit teacher. I was an unfit board member for anybody. I was a baby killer and a baby dismemberer. It was terrible. So and Lauren, I'm sure you went through this too. The pressure, the stress. You felt like, why am I doing this? Why did I ever do this? And I don't want to name drop, but Teresa Fetter is one of my closest friends. I've known her for 20, 30 years. She just pushed my butt and kicked me and pushed and said, forget it. You can do this. This is nothing. Water off the back of a duck. Go, girl. And when I most needed it, my team was there for me. And if not for that team, I never would have been able to make it. Honestly, the vitriol, the hate was just astounding for a board. But I didn't let it get me. I persevered. That was my big challenge.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so what I heard is we all need a Senator Teresa Ritter in our lives to keep pushing us. What I also heard is you have to let the water roll down off of your back, just like we're ducks.
Well, you know, the people that stab you in the back, you know, you take that knife and you just sever your ties with those people. You have to. And I'd focus on the positive. My Facebook page was positive, teacher memes, love of teaching, love of, you know, passion for learning. Let's keep what's good. That was my agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. That's fantastic because so many times um, we're distracted again. That seems like a buzzword. This is like the third or fourth time I've said it, but it's a distraction to keep us from being focused on what our strategy is, board member, keeping the main thing the main thing. And so I appreciate your candor in sharing how you move forward with that. Now, I'd like to move into I'm elected. I fell short. Now what? What is my community impact going to be? Um, so much of you are already, so many of you are already doing the work in the community. Uh, your leadership is evolving the community. I'd like to start with, oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. City Attorney-elect Kyra, I apologize. Had one more person on my list before I got to free for all. So just hold back on that. Your bio. I heard passionate trailblazer and who makes space for others. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
History maker. So not only are you a passionate trailblazer, you're a challenger. You're like, oh no, I'm going to go for it. Thank you. You challenged the incumbent, one who had been serving this as city attorney and who was the prosecutor in Gahanna for 30 years. Wow. That's a career. You challenged a career because you wanted to serve, because you're passionate, and because you're a trailblazer. Thank you. So why, you know, give us some inspiration and some confidence. Why did you decide to take on that challenge? And did you have any hesitancies of running?
Well, I did. I did have hesitancy. And I mean, I think the quick answer is, like I said at the beginning, I was asked and I felt like I was up for the challenge. But I think what really got me going and kept me motivated was that the more I learned about him and his administration, and the more I actually talked to him about my run, it was that sense of entitlement. He felt that this was his city and this was his job, and that he was entitled to do whatever he wanted to, and everything was fine just the way it was, and nothing needed to change. And I knew that he was not reflective of what the city needed and what the city wanted and what the city was consisted of, because he was so out of touch with what the city had become over the last 30 years, which is that the majority of citizens are not those who have lived here our entire lives or have had generational families here in the city. It's all transplants. It's people coming in, people looking for new opportunities, more diversity. And so I felt like there was a need that needed to be met, and that I was uniquely positioned to serve that need. And so I was certainly somewhat at the beginning, I was a little intimidated by the institution that he had created. But what I knew was that I was up for the challenge, and that I think the city wanted change. And I think that actually ended up backfiring for him, the fact that he had been there for 30 years, and that the things that I was pointing out as areas of improvement have been there forever. And it's only because they always have the same answer. We've always done it that way. Well, why? There's no reason to. And so I'm only the fourth city attorney since the position was created by charter. And this is the first time that I have sat down with people in the police department, in the administration, in the council, and said, let's see what this office actually can do instead of just staying entrenched in what history has created. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. I'm amazed. My story is somewhat similar. I ran against a gentleman who was also a career politician, and he had been my representative on council since I moved here. Then 16, 17, 18 years ago. And before that, he had served in other areas of elected areas and also city appointed. So I can imagine what type of challenge that was in knocking doors. I'm sure you knocked on doors that of individuals that had known this gentleman personally for years and years and years.
Absolutely. Everybody knew Ray somehow, some way, but that wasn't always a positive experience. And so I really tried to capitalize on that as well.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, now I can shift gears, if you will. You're elected, now what? You fell a little short, now what? What direction are you moving toward in making an impact in your world, in your community? And we'll start with City Attorney-elect, please.
Thank you. I think it is very much an idea of starting with a clean slate for me. It is, what can we do now that has not been done before because people were too afraid to rock the boat? Challenging the things that are in place and seeing where we can make positive change, and bring in voices and having people be heard at the table that historically have not been heard and listened to. So whether that's, talking to patrolmen or talking to the clerk of council or, anybody who is willing to step up and say, here's what I see as a change that needs to be happening. So right now for me, what's next is gathering up all the information that I need to be able to hit the ground running in January.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. School Board Member Lauren, please.
Thank you. Yeah. So there, like I said, there were 2 seats available and I won one of them and my opponent won the other seat. So it's kind of a funny transition to make from contentious campaign in which, a lot of the circumstances were similar and even some of the name calling was similar to what Shelley described earlier. Now I have to work with these folks, with this this individual who said some of these things, it's sort of, it's something as an adult that I never thought I'd have to do, but here we are. And so now I'm kind of transitioning into, okay, I have to really just find that inner fortitude to do business with people who I otherwise would not want to know or meet face to face. But I can do it. I know that I can. And I've done harder things, so I know I can do this too. And so it's going to be a matter of getting, into my first meeting, which will be in January when I'm sworn in, and really understanding kind of the process, the rules of the meeting. For school board meetings like the ones that we're experiencing over the last few years, 2 years, I want to find order. I want to restore order. I want to engage the community in more productive ways. I want to find ways for them to even those folks who are that vocal minority, I want to find ways that we can engage them, maybe start to build some trust, because that seems to be lacking for them. And to move toward a constructive dialogue as opposed to just 2 sides shouting at each other. So my first order of business is really just to kind of find some order, and restore trust with the folks who feel they don't have it. but also be that voice for all the people who believed in me and supported me and voted for me. So
Thank you. Thank you. So we've heard elevate voices, clean slate, working with my opponent. As you were saying, I've done harder things. I promise I wrote down, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. Thank you for sharing what your impact will be. Excited for January. Okay, so I can't call you mayor, Madam Mayor, as much as I want to, but I don't consider you falling short a loss. It's learning, it's growing your leadership of love. So share with me your next steps in terms of your impact.
Sure, thank you. Some of the things that came up during the campaign trail were glaring discrepancies in the services that are being provided to our community. I did a campaign visit to the senior center, and they've been operating without a program director or structured meal service since COVID. And I said, you all deserve better. We can fix that. So while still running, I was able to write a grant for the senior center and make some shifts with local government to get that funded. So my nonprofit is taking over that portion of the community. We also have a very failing system in place for domestic violence victims, as well as our homeless population in our community. So those are two areas that I'm looking at working with the board of the nonprofit to help restructure or put sustainable systems in place. For so long, it's just been a box that's been checked. So I think that one of the main positive outcomes of the campaign is going to be the light that is being shown on these discrepancies, and creating the teams of people, because I think through this campaign, people that a long time in my community, as in a lot of communities, especially in Ohio, I feel like Appalachian region, decisions are made for people who are not at the table. And I think one thing that the campaign I was able to express to people was everyone deserves a seat at the table. And if they're not going to make room for us at their table, then we're going to build our own. And no decision is going to be made for you without your voice being heard, or a representative at the table for your demographic. So I think that people are gravitating towards that, and we'll be able to really facilitate a lot of positive change that maybe the government in our community is not going to be focused on, but our nonprofit sector and our community can be focused on, and really just embracing that collaborative mindset moving forward, and just the sky's the limit, I guess, with what we can accomplish as long as we're working together. So I'm optimistic for those things.
I'm into Ironton. I'm getting close
Please,
to
I
the
would love to
fire.
have you come visit. Yes.
Wait a minute. Did you hear she is basically what I heard? She's uncovering those needs and finding solutions while she was on the campaign trail. Imagine what she can do when she's not campaigning. Whoa. Yes, I'm coming close to the fire. Now it looks like, did I lose board member Shelley? Okay, I thought I lost her. Okay,
Yeah.
well, my apologies that I didn't get to hear from her. May I hear from my municipality neighbor, Councilwoman-elect Jamil, please? You're
Yeah.
elected, now what?
Yeah, this was such a question, and it just made me giggle because I have a 9-year-old daughter. And so as I've started to go to more city council meetings, and I was handed the 200-page budget binder, my daughter was like, wait, you won. Like, I thought you were done. So like I didn't prepare her for, if mommy wins, like there's more work. And I also had that moment too of like, okay, now the real work begins. And I tend to be a person where, I want to get to results and get to just like making things happen. And I think we will, and that's important. But I think one of the commitments that I made throughout the campaign is kind of like what Amanda said, is that a lot of decisions are being made for people that aren't sitting at the table. And so I'm really trying to right now focus on like learning, but also listening. Like, like not jumping in and doing all of the campaign promises that, you know, that I wanted in the first 6 months. Like I've got 4 years to do things, but listening to residents and understanding. We learned a lot through the campaign, but now that I'm really able to act on some of those things that I heard, is it's almost like continuing to campaign. That's one of the things that I said through the process, you know, as I was knocking doors to folks. And actually, I learned this from Miss Meredith and Miss Jeanette and Reynoldsburg. Like, I'm still going to go to door and make sure, because it's an at-large seat as well. You know, there's 36,000 people in Gahanna who don't know that I'm here and that I exist. And so it's making sure that those voices are brought to the table, and listening and learning from folks, continuing to outreach, and then basing what I do based on what the people say, not having my own agenda, but the agenda of the people.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I see board member Shelley is back with us. Thank you for returning. Two things. So the question, you're elected, now what? So I want you to answer that, and then panel, we're going to go into a second question. And Shelley, I want you to start with that second question. We're all here because of the Matriots, because of our aligned values. So you're elected, now what? You're a Matriot. How is it that the Matriots supported your campaign? What benefit, how beneficial was it for your campaign?
Well, first
Thank
of
you.
all, my cats were wrestling and pulled the cord off the computer, which shut me off. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I won. The win came out of my sales, partly in winning because I was so happy to win. Unfortunately, the 2 levies that were for my school system both failed, including a vital operational levy. So what was I've won, so what do I do? What I was planning on doing with the operational levy being passed was getting ready for full day kindergarten, hiring more STEM teachers, making sure the arts program is accelerated, doing all these fun things. That's why they elected me. Okay, so now what do? I've got to cut millions of dollars from the budget this year. It's sickening. It's sickening. So in fact, like teachers who were only hired this year, they're not going to be rehired next year. What are we going to do? We have to balance the budget. It's terrible. It's terrible. That being said, I'm still going to stick to my guns. I'm going to keep voting for kids and for teachers. If I'm the sole no vote, so be it, because now there's a conservative majority on the board. As far as the Matriots, I am so glad I came across you guys, honest to God. I have several friends who were endorsed by the Matriots. I have friends who are in the Matriots. My friend Andy told me, get involved with them, Shelley. So that's what I did. And honestly, first person I talked to was Barb, I think. Barb, you were my first person I talked to. And so she said, wait till after primaries, we'll get you on. I couldn't be happier for the support that I received from them, from your group. And and when I talked to Fizz later on in the campaign and I said, this is what's happening, she said, you know what? We're going to send you a little extra money. Thank you. And that helped pay for more ads, that paid for more literature, that paid for things, just incidentals. It's great to have a group of powerful women behind you. I stand with that. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful.
Yes. Okay. So I have 2 more minutes. So rest of our fabulous panel, please popcorn feedback, pop quick, fast, in a hurry. Tell me, how did the Matriots impact your campaign?
I'll just jump in real quick and say that like the Matriots was the endorsement that I'm most proud of, because of the endorsement of so many women that I admire. And so when I made the like, yes, I'm going to do this, I immediately was like, okay, I need to start preparing for the Matriots endorsement. Like, where's the questionnaire? How do I get ready for this? Because it's a tribe of awesome women that like, I think it's the one endorsement where it came through. I think I shed a little tear because it's about the support, but it's about the belief in all of us. And that was the inspiration that I needed. And those, like the emails leading up to the week of election day with the inspiration, I felt like y'all wrote them just for me. But that's like that is the theme throughout the whole support of the Matriots. It's like, yes, it was 100 and something women, but I felt like y'all were just my tribe right there helping me throughout. So thank you.
The
Real
same
quick,
for
I
me,
got 2 more minutes.
especially during, the support was incredible. And I don't think my community celebrates, a lot of communities don't celebrate women the way that they should. And through the campaign, I've really tried to highlight like small business owners that were women, and just as much as I could showcase women. And people are like, oh, she's a feminist. And cool, thank you. And then call me a liberal feminist at that. Appreciate you. But when I got the endorsement, it was like, I also cried. But the most impactful moment, I think, was when it was the week before the runoff and Emily called, and I was just at this point, I was in my car. I had just pulled into my house, and it was like sitting, you sit in your car for a little bit before you walk in so you can shift your energy back to like who you want to show up for as your family, with your family. And she called, and it was just like, okay, I can do this. I can do anything for 14 days. I have these amazing women behind me, and they're cheering for me, and they're sending me love. And I felt every ounce of it. And not just in the initial or that last little push, but through the entirety of the entire campaign. And I'm just so grateful. So thank you all for everything.
If I could just add really quickly, I know we're running short on time, but I thought that the Matrix endorsement was the most meaningful to me because I felt that it really like showed my values. Because I'm not in a policy position, so it was hard for me to really advocate for what I stand for personally. But having this kind of an endorsement behind me, I felt really gave me a lot of credibility and made me more relatable to voters.
I'll be quick and say I second all of that, and just was really happy to be part of a big group of very inspiring people. Couldn't have appreciated it more.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We all share the Matrix values. We all share our gratitude for how they show up and support us candidates, us electeds, those of us that have fallen a little bit short, but we learned during that time. And so I personally have said this many times before and will continue saying this. The Matriots really gave me a boost to my first campaign in 19 and again in 23 because they believed in me. That made me believe in myself a little bit more. Number one, first and foremost. And then number two, so it's great to be endorsed by the Matriots, and it's a very strenuous process. However, you know that we as women, we are going to make sure that we are aligned in terms of our values. So I took it very seriously, so much so it was quite a surprise to me to look into my mailbox and receive a check from the Matriots. And I might add, it was one of the it was a larger check that I had received from someone that did not have my DNA. And so I'm forever grateful. And I say that in front of my mama because she wrote my first check, but she's my mom. She's not the Matriots. And then when she's a Matriots and my mom, it's my winning season. So with that, I'll wrap up. I will want to personally and publicly thank our president and CEO, Emily Schreiber, for her leadership. Board Chair Barbara, thank you so much for your leadership. Fizz, thank you for not ignoring my emails or my texts because I probably reached out far too many times. And just thank you. Thank you for believing in us as first-time candidates, as incumbents, as challengers, as those going for open seats. We know that this is going to be a very, very interesting primary in general election season. So we're along for the ride, and I'm going to lean in and hear from our fearless leader.
This has left me breathless and somewhat speechless, which I gotta say never really happens, right? I am so thankful for the six of you, for your leadership, for your thoughtfulness, for really stepping up to challenges across the state where people were not stepping up and they were saying, if only there was someone to lead. And you are the someone to lead. So thank you all for being here this evening and for your continued support of our values throughout your community. We are thankful for you. I'm thankful for the members who are on the call still and those who have had to leave us already. My last job this evening is to wrap up the evening. So I'm going to share just one screen with you, which talks about what we can do next, right? So we heard from our candidates that it's critically important that we start to help in your community. You don't have to be running for office in order to help, right? That's a great idea. So if you haven't run for office and you want to, you have until the 20th to get your petitions in for races across the state of Ohio, but she needs your help. Now you can give directly to women's campaigns. You can promote her campaign to your network. You see those two bullet points on my screen. We need the Center for American Women in Politics at Rutgers in New Jersey has told us time and time again, and just recently put out a report that says women are not raising the same amount of money as men candidates, especially in state house races, but across the board. And women are not giving as much to political candidates. So I need all of you to really think about how we can put our voice forward. And one way that we can do that is by assisting the Matriots as well. So if you can renew your multi-year pledge to our work, if you can increase your levels of support, I would love for you to do that. We want to be able to give, like Meredith said, the most amount that I possibly can to our candidates who are going to be running across the state this year and into the future. If you can, volunteer on a Matriots committee. We're going to have a committee call, all call, and we'll talk about what some of the volunteer opportunities are, but we definitely need more endorsement committee members. Our work requires interviewing and talking with every single one of these candidates for quite some time. And so if you have on your heart to volunteer, I would love to hear from you. You can host a house party for us. Those are super fun. Candidates and Matriots come out and share our story, but also share your story of why you're connected with the work that we do. We are impactful. We are making a difference across Ohio. I'm not just saying that for me, but I'm saying it for you as well, because we are all collectively changing Ohio. And with 113 new folks in office this year, we've got change we can build on. In the chat, I think you either have my email address or you have the email address for the organization. If you send us a note there, we can get back to you. You can scan this QR code. That's really fun. I like to scan QR codes and learn a little bit more, donate more to get women elected. I'm thankful for all of you this year, ever onward into the fray for our candidates. And we will see you in 2024, but probably before that, because we're pretty vocal. So you'll probably see us well before 2024. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye. I'm going to stop spotlighting myself. Thank you so much. Candidates, thank you. That was wonderful.
This was great. Thank you so much. I just realized that I'm logged into my work Zoom and not my personal Zoom.
Well, it looks the same to us. If that's any consolation, it looks the same to us.
I'm not on work